Hey y'all. So my name is Ricky and I've had ME for about 10 years. The last 6 years have been pretty rough for me and I'm starting to get a little bit desperate. As despite seeing Stanford and getting some of the best care possible, my health seems to be regressing. So I have recently started peptides, and despite only being 2.5 weeks into taking them, the results are rather extraordinary. Now, I want to warn you that if you wish to take peptides, it's a huge rabbit hole that you'll have to dive into, and there are some significant reasons why you might not want to take them. Firstly, let's discuss what we're talking about here. Peptides are short chains of amino acids that help build proteins in our body. Our bodies naturally make peptides, but we can supplement them to achieve certain effects with different peptides. There is a huge array of different ones that can do different things and achieve radically different effects. You can lose weight, improve your sleep, increase focus, recover from workouts, and a wide range of other things, all using peptides. It's important to note that the use of peptides in medicine is not particularly new. Insulin is a peptide, for example, and the GLP-1s that are a craze right now are also peptides. So if peptides are so great, then what's the issue? Well, the fundamental issue is that these peptides aren't being sourced and administered by the medical system. Many peptides have limited human research, and although modern medicine is currently doing many studies on peptides, there are currently very few peptides that are well researched or integrated into the medical system. This means that the vast majority of people taking peptides are purchasing unregulated substances from China and injecting them into themselves with insulin needles. Further compounding the problem is that many of these peptides we simply don't have much information on, and further compounding that problem is that the space is full of grifters and fake experts trying to profit off of the peptide craze, so getting quality information is often very challenging. Given all this, taking peptides seems a little bit crazy. So why are so many people doing it, and why am I, someone who is skeptical of much of the information discussed online about peptides, why am I taking peptides? Well, it's because they work. And there is something really significant that everyone with ME should know. Peptides are not like many other supplements that we take that can help a little bit, maybe mask some symptoms. Peptides can help address some of the underlying root causes of ME itself, which is what caught my interest and made me want to try them in the first place. So what makes peptides so interesting for us with ME is that they can address mitochondrial dysfunction, heal our mitochondria, as well as increase ATP production. If you aren't familiar, dysfunctional and damaged mitochondria and low ATP production are the primary cause of fatigue in ME. So we're talking about the ability to not just give ourselves energy like we can with stimulants, but giving ourselves energy by fixing the fundamental issue causing our fatigue in the first place. Really consider the significance of that. This is pretty incredible. So the three substances we'll be discussing today, you will hear sometimes called the mitochondrial stack or similar in peptide communities online. This combination can help normal people, but I think it's particularly beneficial for people with dysfunctional mitochondria. If you Google the phrase CFS peptides Reddit, you will find numerous success stories, and although there are a wide range of peptides that get brought up, by far the three most common ones are the three that boost mitochondrial function. So if you want to go deeper down the peptide rabbit hole, you are welcome to, but I'm going to stick with these three for a while at least before considering anything else. So let me tell you a little bit about the peptide I'm taking now, what I plan on taking in the future, and what these little peptides can do. The first ingredient is a peptide called SS31. Yes, every peptide has a name like that. They're really not memorably named, unfortunately. But SS31 is definitely where, in my ignorant opinion at least, it makes the most sense for people with ME to start. The reason for that is that SS31 heals the mitochondria. I don't know much about biology or chemistry, so I won't explain the mechanism of how it works because I don't really understand it, but it heals the mitochondria in a few different ways, and in doing so, increases ATP production. This means your mitochondria will be healthier, you will have more energy, and your physical capacity should go up meaningfully. It is important to note that SS31 is one of the few peptides that all the evidence suggests is actually very safe. It is actually FDA regulated for treating a very rare disease called Barth syndrome, so it seems the FDA thinks it's safe for humans. Remember, however, that we will not be using FDA regulated SS31, so that sucks. But overall, even if you find using other peptides crazy, you may want to consider SS31. Within a week of taking SS31, my physical capacity had more than doubled. I was doing chores, going on walks, doing yard work that was impossible just a week previously. And now, at 2.5 weeks of taking it, I'm doing even more. I got 50 milligrams of SS31 from Nextech Labs for about $100 shipped. So with all the other things I needed to use, the total cost for administering peptides was less than $200 to get this benefit in the first month. I started out taking 1 milligram a day for 2 weeks, and now I'm taking 2 milligrams a day, and I plan on keeping it there for a while. It is important to note that there is no human testing safety data on long-term use of SS31. So you should do your own research if you plan on taking it for more than a few months, but I plan on taking it for at least 6 months. But this is not an endorsement of this idea. This is not a suggestion for you. Again, you should do your own research and figure out what makes sense for you. The next peptide to discuss is called MOTS-C. Again, I don't know anything about biology or chemistry, so I'm not going to give you an explanation of how it works that I don't understand myself. But it heals mitochondria in a different way to SS31 and also increases the production of new mitochondria. You can imagine how powerful increasing the mitochondria count could be for someone with ME. So again, what this peptide is accomplishing is pretty incredible. It's important to note that this peptide really requires a lot more study to know if it's completely safe in humans. From what I read, it seems that there's a chance it could help cancer cells grow, but there's also a chance it could prevent cancer growth. We just don't know. If you have ongoing cancer, I think it would be irresponsible to take MOTS-C, even though we're not certain if it increases cancer growth. But also if you have a family history of cancer and are a little older, it's probably not a good idea. Also of importance is that, although we don't know for sure, taking MOTS-C long-term may be dangerous. This may not be the case, but given limited human testing, in my opinion, and that of many others who are far more knowledgeable than myself, one should only take MOTS-C for 8 to 12 weeks and then cycle off of it for at least 4 weeks. Again, this may not be necessary, and I would encourage you to do your own research and reach your own conclusions, but I think this is probably a very good idea. There seems to be 2 very different approaches to taking MOTS-C. In clinical applications where real medical doctors are giving MOTS-C to patients, they do so in very low doses. However, the peptide bros online seem to use much higher doses. I debated back and forth for a while considering which I should do for myself. I concluded to go with the peptide bros and do the higher dose of 10 milligrams a week, administered 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. The reason I reached this conclusion is that in most of the studies I could find, the doses were extremely high, and in fact much higher than 10 milligrams a week. I will not tell you what makes sense for you, and I may very well be an idiot, but this is the decision I have made for myself. After having been on MOTS-C for a month, I will start taking NAD+. NAD+ is not a peptide, but it will dramatically increase your ATP production. My simplistic understanding is that it's very important that we have healed our mitochondria with SS31 and MOTS-C before asking our mitochondria to work hard and increase their ATP production. With regards to the safety of NAD+, from everything I can find, it seems very safe with only minor short-term side effects being common. Again, I'm not an expert, I'm just a dude with ME, so do your own research. Now, for a little twist, I will not actually be taking NAD+. You certainly can, and it will hit your system much faster. However, I'm a little tired of injecting myself with things, so I'm going to take 2 precursors of NAD+, and let my body create its own NAD+ from those supplements. The 2 supplements that I'm going to take are called NMN and NR. The advantage of these is that they're cheap and you can take them orally as pills. You can take NAD+ orally as well, but my understanding is that it mostly gets broken down in your stomach and you end up absorbing very little NAD+. So if you want to go the oral supplement route, then precursors of NMN and NR are superior. I want to really hit home the point that I'm not recommending any of this, and I don't know if this will work out well for you or even for me for that matter. But that's kind of the point of making this video at this stage in my journey, as I want to document my experience with peptides and what they do for me. So please do your own reading on the matter and reach your own conclusions. So now, all this being said, I'd like to talk a little bit about what you need for taking peptides. Firstly, you need the peptides. So this is my SS31, 50 milligrams I got from Nextech Labs. It's a tiny, tiny bottle. You really administer very little. You can see I've taken most of it. That's what's left from my 50 milligram bottle. So all the benefit I've gotten has been from that much liquid peptide SS31. But yeah, so finding a reliable source of peptides, finding a good supplier, it's a whole rabbit hole unto itself. I really recommend that you not just trust me and do your own research on each supplier you buy from, as none of this is regulated. So I get my SS31 from Next Tech Labs, and I just purchased MOTC from Simple Peptide. I'm trying to get the cheapest peptides I can from reputable dealers, as many of the dealers, suppliers I look at are much more expensive. But if you're willing to spend a lot more, I think you can order from suppliers that provide better evidence for the quality of their products than who I'm buying from. Also, many people buy directly from China via the gray market. It seems that this is getting harder than it used to be. Maybe the government is cracking down on gray market peptides, I don't know. But I've spent a couple days looking into gray market peptide dealers on WhatsApp and Telegram, and their prices never seem better than what I can get from American companies. Feel free to dive into that if you want. Maybe you'll find better deals than I did. But my adventure of looking into the gray market was unsuccessful in finding lower prices. Next, you'll need bacteriostatic water, which we just call BAC water. Hold on, I've got it lying around here somewhere. So this is BAC water, and it's literally just water with it's sterile water with a tiny amount of alcohol in it, and that keeps it sterile. So when you get the peptides, they're actually in powdered form, and you have to reconstitute them using this sterile water. So you need this. You can't take peptides without this. So I recommend finding a peptide calculator that matches the needles that you have. They come in 0.3 milliliter or 1 milliliter most commonly, and figuring out how much water to add to your peptide from there. Note that how much water you add is not super significant. However, knowing how much of the peptide solution equals 1 milligram of peptide is very important. So if you add more water, the peptides don't become less effective, but you will have to draw more of the liquid into the needle to get the same dose. So put in enough BAC water to get a dosage that's convenient for how much you want to take. If you make it so that way you draw very little on the needle, then it's challenging to get an accurate dose. And if you put in a lot, then you'll just have to inject more liquid than necessary into yourself, which isn't a huge deal, but it's a little annoying and inconvenient. So the insulin needles, these are usually 31 gauge. Where does it say? Oh, it doesn't say anywhere on it. Here we go. 31 gauge. And you want, the most common is to get 5/16 or 8 millimeter long needles. So these two needles have very different capacities. This one holds over 3 times what this one holds, but when you're injecting yourself with them, they're basically the same. The needles at the ends are the same. So the common capacities, again, they're 0.3 milliliters or 1 milliliter. I like these little guys for actually injecting myself with the peptide. But when you're reconstituting the water, it only goes up to 0.3 milliliters, which is kind of inconvenient. When you're reconstituting, that means that you're putting this in your BAC water a lot of times. You're only going up to like 0.2 or 0.25 or whatever. Whereas with this, you can put in 1 milliliter of water at a time. So generally you'll put in like 2, 3, 4, 5 milliliters of water. If you can do 1 milliliter of water at a time, it'll go much faster than if you can only go up to 0.3. So do with that information what you will. It's important that you have a sharps container. You can get these at most pharmacies. Please do not throw away your needles just into the trash. They are considered a biohazard and should be properly disposed of. This is a pretty small cost in the grand scheme of things, so there's really no reason not to do this. And lastly, you will need alcohol wipes. And you're going to use these for cleaning your BAC water at the top every time you reconstitute your peptides. You're going to use it on the top of your peptide bottle every time you inject yourself, and you're going to use it on your skin every time that you inject yourself. So small cost, get this at your local pharmacy or wherever, but this is important. Now for injecting the peptides, there are a few places you can inject. I like the top of my thighs, kind of like this area here, around here. I also do the butt sometimes. You can do the stomach. That kind of skeeves me. There's some other places that you can do it that kind of skeeve me. I do the tops of the thighs and the butt. I'm happy with that. But certainly there's plenty of places that are good to inject. You can look it up if you want. Also, I want to say that I was really intimidated by injecting myself and the thought of using needles, but the insulin needles are so small. You're like, let me show you one. That is, I don't even know if you can see it on camera. Yeah, they're so small that they really don't hurt and aren't very intimidating. I found the process to be a lot more comfortable than I was expecting. There are a lot of YouTube videos out there on reconstituting peptides and general information on peptides. I really encourage you to do your own research, but I will warn you that the space is mostly full of people that you should not listen to. I encourage you to listen to real medical doctors, but unfortunately, the majority of people who appear to be doctors are posing as licensed doctors. I frequently see these people misusing common medical terms, so I think this crowd really doesn't know anything about anything. Please don't listen to these chuckle nuts. Last thing before we go, this is a brief overview and not at all a complete guide to using peptides. There's a lot of that content already out there, so I don't really feel the need to repeat what is easily found. But if you guys want such a guide from me, I'd be happy to make one. Just let me know if that's something that you're interested in. So this has been my experience with peptides so far and my plans for the future. I will keep y'all updated as I experience each new stage of this process. Let me know if you have any questions. Hope to see y'all next time. Cheers.